So I did a video pretty similar to this on my Power Stroke when I had it. Went over kind of 5 things that I loved and hated about it. So we're going to do the same thing with the F-150. I wouldn't necessarily say these are things that I hate about it, because I'm actually really happy with this truck. This is probably one of my favorite ones that I've owned so far. I'm going to do, it's pretty much like 5 things that kind of annoy me or that are inconveniences about it. The primary thing is going to be the infotainment system, which for 2013, I want to say that this was probably pretty good for at the time, but you know, it's 10 years later now. Everything is wireless, has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you know, the big HD screens. Yeah, for some reason on these F-150s on 12th gens, this I believe is Sync 2. The Sync 1 is that little tiny screen with the backup camera that you could barely see. But this one tends to freeze up a lot. It tends to kick my phone off of Bluetooth, which I know it's not just this truck, because I had a 2013 before, and my old one when I bought it, it only had 30,000 miles on it. I think I had like 33,000, and it did the same thing. So I imagine Ford probably has like a recall or something on them. I got to get it checked out. But also, let's see, which the backup camera's working now, which this one's actually pretty cool. It has the different modes, which I feel like that was probably ahead of its time for 2013. But it'll come up whenever you put it on. It'll either be black, it'll say contact dealership, or it'll just be like staticky, or it'll have all these different color stripes. So I don't know if there's a recall. I know there is a update where you can update it to Sync 3, but I just don't know if it's worth it, or to just do the big, they make like this big 12-inch screen you could put in here. But a lot of the stuff that I've read on the Facebook posts and on forums says that I guess you lose your temperature controls. So some people were saying that their air conditioning stopped working and their controls weren't working. I don't know if that's maybe they wired it up wrong, or if it's actually a failure with those systems, because I guess it integrates the temperature controls in with the screen. So if any of you guys have any experience with that, definitely let me know what you think, if you know, you had good luck or bad luck with it. As far as the sound system goes though, I mean, it has Sony speakers all throughout. It has the tweeters and the pillars, so I don't have any complaints about that. I mean, that sounds great. And then my second complaint is probably going to be the exhaust on these. For some reason on this generation truck, the heat shield on the cats always comes loose and it starts to rattle. My other truck did the same thing, and it sounds like your exhaust is gonna fall off, but really like everything's tight. It's just that them heat shields come loose for some reason. So you either gotta reclamp them down or go under there and just take them off completely. You'll be driving down the street and you come to like an idle, and then you hit like a coast and you'll hit the gas again, and it'll just rattle so loud. It's completely probably the most annoying thing. Then number 3 is gonna be the shifter. On like the base model trucks, for some reason it has it on the steering column. It's kind of like a love-hate thing, because I don't necessarily mind it being on the center console. I mean, it feels good. It definitely is kind of like in the right position and everything, but it just, I don't know, it kind of gives you that real truck feel having it on the steering column. Yeah, when the shifter's on the column here, it just kind of gives it that feel of like a real truck. Kind of reminds me of driving like an old dent side like my old man had growing up, or an old square body Chevy. And then the last 2 things that I necessarily don't like, these are actually things that I hate that are going to be addressed eventually, and it just makes me more mad because they both could have been completely avoided. So let's jump out here, I'll show you. The first thing, which is honestly, this is just a L in Pennsylvania, is gonna be the rusty rockers. And it really, really irritates me because it could have been avoided, but the previous owner had cheap running boards on there, and the running board started to rust. So now this is what I'm left with, because the rust spread from the running boards onto the rockers, which nowhere else on the truck is rusty. It's completely clean under the fender flares. It's clean underneath. The frame's clean. Literally, these cheap Chinese running boards caused my rockers to go. And the last final thing is these fender flares. I don't know what it is. I cannot stand these rivet style fender flares. Just stop, please. Everyone, stop putting fender flares on these trucks. It drives me crazy because I can't even take them off because it ruined the paint. Literally. Oh, look at this. Completely ruined. So now we're going to have to eventually, probably in the springtime, you can see it's peeling here because they had to have these on there. I understand some states in PA require them if you want to run the wider wheels to pass inspection, but if you're gonna do that, run fender flares like I had on my black truck. You can see in my first video, super clean. They were I believe bushwhacker. They were smooth, no rivets or nothing. They basically looked factory. But now, because the previous owner put these fender flares on it, I'm gonna have to either get new fenders, sand down the back, smooth it out, repaint it, whatever. It's just a whole process that could have been completely avoided if they just wouldn't have put them on the truck to begin with. So now that we went over all of that, we're going to get into the 5 things that I do love about this truck, because like I said, this is by far, I think, my favorite truck that I've owned so far. Number 1 is just going to be the overall appearance of the truck. It's going to be, I love this body style truck as far as the 12th gen, which is like the 09 to 14 body. Yeah, Ford absolutely killed it with this body style. And it's still a steel body, so it feels solid. Unlike, I've driven some of the new aluminum bodies and they just don't ride as good. So the number 2 thing is going to be the ride quality. I mean, again, with almost 130,000 miles on this truck, it still rides like it's basically brand new. You don't feel the bumps in the road. It doesn't rattle. The only thing that does rattle a little bit is the mirrors, but it's whatever. The truck doesn't feel like, you drive some of the older trucks. I mean, this truck's 10 years old with higher miles, like the Rams and the Chevys, they feel like rattle boxes. And number 3 is just the stance. I think this truck sits perfect. The wheels could be a little bit wider, but as far as like the lift, it's sitting on about 4 inches. So it's just, basically, it still rides good. It doesn't handle terrible. It's easy to get in and out of, but it just sits up high enough to kind of give it that aggressive look. And then one of my overall things that always kind of brings me back to these trucks is the seats. These are probably the best seats that Ford made. Especially these with they got the red strip in them. They have like the felt Alcantara in the middle. They're air conditioned. They're just so nice and plush. And you could kind of lower them way down so you could sit. Steering wheel feels like it's up in the perfect position. Just the way, I'm 6'2", so I have to fit in a vehicle perfect to be comfortable. In this truck, I mean, I had F-150, I've had a Silverado, I've driven Tundras, Tacomas, everything. This, even like the newer body styles, the 15 to I believe 2020, they're just not as comfortable. The new ones, the 21 to 23 now, their seats are pretty nice, but I think these by far, especially compared to like the Chevy seats and the Tundra seats that kind of feel like you're sitting on a piece of wood, especially the new Chevy seats, the 19 to 20, whatever, 23, they're terrible. These are like perfect. Plus these trucks, there's literally, they've made millions of them, so the aftermarket support for them is crazy. You could get anything you want. You could build them any way you want, from like a lowered street truck to a race truck to a rock crawler, pre-runner style, and they're still really cheap compared to what the truck market looks like right now. You could find them right around 20 grand and under. you know, sometimes still with under 100,000 miles. And they come with the option of the best two V8 configurations that you can get, which is the 6.2 liter and the 5.0 Coyote, which I've had both, and they're both great engines. Thanks guys for watching. If you like the truck, you like the content, follow along for more.